Hey Brandon, so there's a lot of movies that Hollywood does about being left behind. Where do they get that concept?
And books. The whole Left Behind series, Kirk Cameron started those. I remember I actually have a couple of the books from the series. I think my sister had the whole series. There's this whole concept of this pre-tribulation rapture. It started in the mid 1800s and kind of grew from there. And over the last, I'd say, 20, 25 years, that the media has picked that up. The Christian production companies and stuff have tried to pick that up and make it into movies. But unfortunately, it's not biblical. Right, it's one of those concepts that's very well accepted, and people will take bad ideas that they're told, and then they'll go and read them into Scripture. And specifically in Matthew 24, 39, 41, we're given an illustration by Jesus of this event that takes place where there will be one person hanging out and the other person will be gone. We're not saying that that event doesn't happen. We're just saying that according to the Scripture, that doesn't happen when people think it's going to happen, according to the popular culture of things like the books from Left Behind and things of that nature, where they try to paint this picture that there's going to be this secret rapture, and in the blink of an eye, these Christians are going to just disappear, and the world's going to go into chaos, and planes are going to crash, and cars are going to crash, and piles of clothing are going to be left. Like, that's not scriptural, just because Jesus tells us the whole world is going to see when he returns. We're told all throughout Scripture that there's an event that happens where the sun, the moon, and the stars are darkened, and that it's going to be Jesus' glory that basically introduces his return, and then those who are Christians, both dead and alive, will go and meet him in the air. This is an event that the entire world is going to be able to witness and see. So it's not going to be a secret rapture, but that's what's talked about in Matthew, and he's saying that at his second coming, when he returns, is when we're going to see this event take place, where those who are alive will be transformed and they'll leave to go and see him. And then we'll also see, when he returns, angels that are going to be sent forth to gather the wicked. That's another one of the things that you'll miss if you don't read the entirety of Scripture, is when he returns, he's doing more than just one thing, right? People think that there's going to be just a rapture and that's it. But Scripture is very clear that his return is going to bring comfort to the Christians, but it's going to bring judgment to the wicked and those who are false Christians, those who have been disobedient to the gospel, is what Paul says. And so what we're looking for is there's going to be an event where Jesus returns. Those who are dead will be risen from the grave, according to Paul. They'll be transformed. We who are alive and remain will be transformed, and everybody together will go and meet him. And this all takes place at his return, according to what the Scriptures say, especially in Thessalonians. And then we also see that Jesus is going to bring fiery vengeance, and that is what we see in Scripture referred to as the day of the Lord. So there's going to be a lot of things going on when he returns. Only part of it includes the Christians being taken away to go be with him. The other part is the angels. You can actually go read the parable of the wheat and the tares in Matthew chapter 13, and Jesus specifically says that the angels are the harvesters at the end of the age, and they're going to go out and collect the wicked, and they're going to be preserved for destruction, right? In that parable where we see the tares are collected to be put into the fire. So there's going to be a lot of people going a lot of different places. There's also going to be people who will be left behind that are survivors, right? They're going to be going through some very difficult things at the very end of the age while God's judgment is being poured out. Well, we see the what you would consider to be the vials, or the bowls of God's wrath, are poured onto the earth before Judgment Day takes place about 10 days later. So there's actually a lot more to it than just there's going to be a rapture and then heaven happens. There's going to be a rapture. There's going to be transformation and resurrection of the dead. The wicked and those who have disobeyed the gospel will be taken and collected by the angels and taken to destruction. And then Jesus is going to establish 1,000 years. And after that is when we're going to see heaven. So, I think a lot of people really just are trying to find the doctrine that makes them the most comfortable, unfortunately. And that's the greater majority of Christians is, they pick something that they like, that feeds their ego, that feeds their pride, that makes them special as a Christian, that they would, assume that they get special treatment, or that God's going to treat them differently than anybody else throughout history. And there's, enough pieces of false doctrine out there to justify it. And those are the people that are going to be deceived in the end times. And so as a Berean, we have to do our diligence and read the entirety of Scripture to understand what God's truth is. And if we're hungry for the truth, we're going to find, what's true about what's going to happen in the future, what God's promises entail and what's not. So at the end of the day, it's on us.
Yeah, and it's a no-brainer. If Hollywood's using it, then it's probably not true.
Yeah, it's a pretty good indicating factor.
Yeah.